Is we gotta go to Anna Kepner's stepbrother. If you don't know who that is the young lady who was killed on a cruise ship, Carnival cruise ship, a while ago, and her stepbrother is the one being charged, and he's being charged as an adult. Let's get it.
A teen accused of murdering his stepsister on a cruise ship will be prosecuted as an adult.
The DOJ made that announcement today in its first public comments on the Anna Kepner case that, of course, made national headlines back in November.
Watch 2 investigative reporter Justin Shecker is following these new developments. He's live in the newsroom today. Justin.
Hey, good evening. We already knew from the Miami-Dade medical examiner that Anna Kepner died by asphyxiation. According to the DOJ, the 16-year-old stepbrother sexually assaulted the Titusville teen before he intentionally killed her. 5 months after 18-year-old Anna Kepner was found dead in a Carnival cruise ship cabin, her 16-year-old stepbrother has been indicted as an adult by the U.S. Department of Justice.
He's certainly looking at a maximum potential sentence of life in prison.
Former federal prosecutor David Haas explained how the DOJ could have reached this decision.
Typically, the number one most common factor is going to be obviously the seriousness of the offense. And here you have, two is about as bad as they get as far as the allegations go.
After he was initially charged as a juvenile in February,
can you tell us the status of his release terms?
The stepbrother kept his head down and didn't say a word as he left federal court in Miami. Newly unsealed court documents reveal the 16-year-old suspect is charged with Kepner's murder and aggravated sexual abuse.
I don't even really want to think about that one because I can't even begin to imagine what she went through.
I spoke by phone with Anna's biological mother, Heather Wright.
I'm just happy that my daughter got justice and that they tried him as an adult because I was a little worried.
The Titusville teen was a high school cheerleader set to graduate this year.
A beautiful human being, a beautiful soul.
Nancy Larkin's granddaughter was one of Kepner's classmates at the Temple Christian School.
We knew basically from the beginning what has happened, and we've been waiting for this, and we are very grateful.
Before Monday's announcement by the DOJ, details surrounding the FBI investigation to Kepner's murder during a family vacation had been revealed through court filings and hearings in her stepmother's child custody case.
Why couldn't you bring back to your home?
Looking out for the safety of the other children in the home.
That's a crazy thing to think about. The whole reason she didn't have him in his home is to look out for the safety of the other children.
And we are learning the conditions of the stepbrother's release through the newly unsealed federal court documents. He must live with his uncle in Hernando County, and he cannot be alone with anyone under the age of 18 without adult supervision. He's also subject to GPS monitoring. Covering Brevard County Live in the newsroom, I'm Justin.
No matter how you look at it, this is a tragic situation. A stepbrother preying on his stepsister and biding the time. I don't know if he'd done this prior or this is his first instance where he decided to go through and try to assault her because they were on vacation in the middle of the ocean. But luckily he was caught because it was a big sting going around just trying to figure out who actually did it. Are they trying to cover it up? Is the cruise lines covering it up? No, it was just a stepbrother. Let's get over into this next video and get a little bit more information.
Stepbrother of an 18-year-old found dead during a family cruise vacation is now being charged with assaulting and killing her. You may remember this story. Anna Kepner, who you see here. She was found dead in early November. The medical examiner found she'd been strangled to death. Her 16-year-old stepbrother is now being prosecuted. By the way, being prosecuted as an adult. He's facing murder and sex abuse charges. Prosecutors say Kepner's murder was premeditated. NBC News has reached out to his attorneys for comment, although we haven't heard back. I want to bring in George Solis, who is following this story for us, and it is a difficult update to a story that we covered initially when it happened in November. What else do we know from this indictment?
Yeah, Hallie, we're starting to see a little bit more of how this investigation and how the case really unfolded. In the court documents obtained by NBC News, the stepbrother is only identified as TH, but it basically appears that they had this case back in February and it was sealed. And then up until about last week, this was basically moved for adult prosecution. So obviously it's going to move a little bit differently and a little bit quicker. But what we're learning here, based on what federal prosecutors are alleging, he's now facing charges of murder and aggravated sexual assault in the killing of his stepsister. And as you mentioned, you recall that it all takes place when the family is on board this Carnival cruise ship their investigators found her body essentially underneath a bed there. And even in an unrelated court case, Hallie, there was mention that TH was possibly a suspect in this case. Thus began a whole chain of events and a much more thorough investigation, which of course now ultimately leads us to this day where, again, we have these charges, these sex abuse and murder charges. At that time, it was known that he would be remanded into the custody of a guardian, not his parents. And as you mentioned, we have reached out multiple times to the family for comment and all of this. And so far, again, no comment from TH's family. However, we did hear from the family of Anna Kepner telling us that he needs to be arrested at this time. He is now an adult and he needs to be arrested. That is what the family stands. Justice needs to be served. But again, now the timeline here kind of is expedited, whether or not he has to be remanded into federal custody or whether he remains with a guardian, Hallie, is what remains to be seen.
I mean, I'm not surprised that the family of the stepbrother is not going to make a comment. No, they raised a sick man. They raised someone who deserves to be in jail for the rest of their lives, and that shows. It doesn't reflect completely on the parents, but it makes you think about how they raised them. Let's get over into the AI breakdown just to figure out a little bit more information about this whole case. Remember, y'all, if y'all disagree with anything I say, please, let's talk about it. Now, as we know, in April 2026, Timothy Hudson's 16-year-old stepbrother of 18-year-old Anna Kepner was indicated as an adult in federal charges for first-degree murder and aggravated sexual abuse. The charges stem from the death of Anna Kepner on November 7, 2025, while she was on vacation at Carnival Horizon. She was a high school student in Florida. A cabin stewardess discovered her body hidden under the bed, wrapped in a blanket and covered by a life vest. The Miami-Dade medical examiner determined that she was death by mechanical asphyxiation or strangulation or suffocation. Federal prosecutors alleged that Hudson sexually assaulted and intentionally killed her. Although initially charged him as a juvenile in February 2026, U.S. District Judge Beth Bloom ordered the case transferred to adult court. Makes sense to me. Because the crime occurred on the vessel in the international waters, he is being prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney Office of Southern District of Florida. Prosecutors are currently petitioning to have Houston placed in pretrial detention, arguing that he's a threat to others. He had previously been released on electronic monitor while living with a relative. If convicted as an adult, he faces a maximum penalty of life in prison. Wow. Well, we just got to find out for more information to come out about this case. Of course, he's going to plead not guilty, but life in prison. Seems like a perfectly fine charge for the crime that is being committed, if you ask me. But what does this say? It just makes you think, was he sexually assaulting her in the past? Let's see if they have any information on if he assaulted her before the cruise. That's the main thing I want to know. So let's get over into this real quickly. There are reports of troubling behavior by Timothy Hudson prior to the cruise, but no official records or prior assaults on the ship itself before the murder occurred. While there is no public record of earlier previous assaults during the specific vacation, newly unreleased court documents and witness statements highlight several warning signs. Both Hudson's parents were reportedly warned about his obsessive behavior regarding his stepsister prior to the cruise. Anna's boyfriend, Josh, allegedly in an interview said that Hudson's had previously tried to lay on top of Anna without permission at her home. He claimed Anna was too scared to speak up because Hudson's had threatened her. Other family members and friends, including Josh's father, described Hudson's as being infatuated and attracted to her like crazy. Ugh. Anna had expressly felt uncomfortable with her step siblings being in the house. Despite these concerns, the parents allowed Anna and Timothy to share a cabin on the ship. As we know, the night of the incident, he ended up sexually assaulting her. Her mother testified that he had not taken his prescription insomnia medication for 2 nights prior to the discovery of Anna's body. Later claimed that he could not remember what happened. Hussins has pleaded not guilty. Are we surprised? No, we're not. At the end of the day, it sounds like the parents who allowed this to happen, I mean, I can consider them being charged. I would want them to be held responsible as well if I was the parents of the murdered stepdaughter of Anna, because there's clear warning signs. He's obviously infatuated with her, and then at these grown age of 18 and 17, why would you let them sleep in the same cabin in the first place? I don't care if they're not related by blood, and then they're just, maybe that's just something I think about, but at least how I was raised, once you get older, there's things you don't do with the opposite sex, no matter if they're family or not. You might have taken like you was a little baby, you might have taken a shower with your little cousin. You stop doing that when you get old. Come on now. But this is a crazy situation. Let me know your thoughts about this. Do you think that his family should be held responsible for allowing them to share a room in the cabin? Or is this something that they could have possibly foreseen? Which I don't think anybody could have thought that, or would think that their stepson or son would do this. But just the fact that he's obviously obsessed with her in some kind of way, he has some kind of crush on her, that you just keep them there's some things you just need to understand as an adult raising grown teenagers. Absolute crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on it, and let me know how you feel about it, or if you disagree with anything I said. It's a crazy world. You got to keep your head watching all your situations. You got to watch all your situations, y'all. But let me know your thoughts.